Hi everybody, I'm Nicole Vulcan. I'm editor of the Sourced Weekly, and I'm here with Chris Piper. And Chris, why don't you tell everybody what you're running for and introduce yourself and say why you're running.
Yeah, I'm Chris Piper. I'm running for position 3 for City Council here in the City of Bend. I'm currently City Councilor now, and I want to continue being the councilor for the community of Bend, for the citizenry that's here. It's been an incredible learning experience. I've had opportunities to engage and listen and learn with so many people, and I think we need to continue those efforts. Our city is growing tremendously at a fast rate, and I really believe that we need to continually to stay ahead of the curve and not focus on just kind of band-aids, but really begin to look at the city holistically, making sure things that we're working on are inclusive and representative of the entire community, and that we're going to stay ahead and be proactive in the policies that we put forth. So I really feel that there's a need for that, and follow-up to that, I'm running because our councilors need to be more engaged with the community, meaning we need to get out behind that dais and on the streets and in front of the community, whether it's one-to-one in situations like this, or one-to-many, or virtually. And so that, to me, is what a leader is and a public servant, and we need really to begin to exercise that in a way because on how fast our city is growing. We can't lose touch with the community, and that's why I'm running for City Council.
Thanks. So we are doing things a little different this year in terms of our endorsements. Obviously, we're taking some extra precautions this year. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. How has the position of City Councilor changed as a result of the pandemic?
Well, it's been quite challenging. It has changed, as I believe a majority of us know, that we've had to move to virtual meetings using WebEx. It has changed in a way where we can't be as engaged with the community as we would like to be. It's been challenging because we have many individuals, especially this time, that need resources, need answers, need that connection with the city. And COVID has made it difficult for that to happen. And I think the other thing that we found is that we need to really determine how we can move forward getting away from virtual meetings. You know, are there other venues or events that the council can use so that we can bring people in a safe, socially distanced way and utilize those COVID protocols so that the public can begin to re-engage. The last couple of meetings that we've had have been very difficult. We've had bandwidth problems, we've had calling issues and so forth like that. So those things have changed. I think the other is we've really seen I feel our community coming together in a sense outside of the events that we've recently experienced. But we've got businesses that are pulling together and working with one another, becoming friendly competitors, trying to learn best practices on how to best get through this. Mm-hmm. We have community members that are putting together food drives. We have community members, I know in my neighborhood, probably in yours and others, that are identifying those that may have some disabilities, elderly that may not be able to get to stores or feel comfortable or safe going into a grocery store and doing what we can to help do deliveries and groceries. So we've been working together and creating pods. So that to me is seeing a different side of the community and bringing, you know, kind of the fabric of the community in a one consistent piece. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, kind of both sides from a council perspective, but then from a community growth and seeing tremendous empathy and people just kind of opening their hearts now.
Mm-hmm. So this is just a little tweak on something similar. What does leadership look like for a city councilor today?
Really good question. Really good question. I think leadership is even more challenged, just for some of the reasons I noted before, is the fact that we can't be with a lot of people. And to me, being a leader in practicing servant leadership, because we're here as a counselor to advocate on behalf of the people. And we really need to do our best and respond as best we can to the emails that we have, even though it's me, myself, and I trying to do that. Taking advantage of the opportunities that counselors have of town halls, participating in our neighborhood associations, having those connections, and then bringing that information back to council and sharing that so we can stay in touch that way.
So it appears that this pandemic is going to stretch into 2021.
Yeah.
What should the city's position on tourism be as this thing stretches out?
So right now I feel that based on the reports I've read, the data I've seen, we're not near the number of tourists that we had last year. Our city, as many people may not like it, we are a tourism city. By shutting down one website, as some people have recommended, like visitbend.com, is not going to prevent people from coming to Bend. We have writers, we have bloggers, we have social media, we have other websites that promote Bend. So tourism will continue, but now as we're kind of getting towards the end of the summer, that will decline like it has in years past. So I think tourism in 2021, as we go into the winter months, we won't see as much of an impact on tourism. And my hopes as a result of that, we'll start seeing cases decline, and we'll start seeing the percentage of positive cases continue to go down. Right now we're at less than, I think we're at like 3.5% positive cases. If we get to that 5% threshold, that's where it gets really where it gets concerning. And then we really have to take a really concerted effort looking at how we manage tourism going forward.
So the transportation bond, you guys voted in favor of putting that on the November ballot.
That's right.
Can you share with voters your position on putting it on the ballot this fall, and also your view of the specifics of the bond?
Well, the transportation bond, Bend is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. And we have to put in place infrastructure that's going to keep up with the population growth. As you know, I voted in favor of putting the bond on the ballot this November. I'm sensitive also to the economic conditions that we're in, but I'm also trying to look ahead. And as a counselor and as a leader, we can't let emotions impede our decisions about moving forward. And we need to advance transportation. We need to increase our infrastructure. And the transportation bond will allow us to give us those resources and allow us to kickstart the transportation infrastructure that's desperately needed. And what's unique about this is the fact that we can postpone the bond coming to the taxpayer, to the property tax. We've made a decision, it's coming in 2022. And that first tax would be around $28 or $30. And then in 2024, it would go up to about $119. And what's unique about 2024, based on the state economist, that's where they've forecasted the state of Oregon, the economy, to become back to where it was prior to COVID-19. So I feel that it's important with that data, and with where we're currently at with our transportation issues, that we need to have the transportation bond on the November ballot. Let the voters decide what we do going forward. And there's lots of other things. What about the specifics
of the bond itself and the various projects?
Oh, sure.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, 2 years of work went into that bond, and 2 years of hard work, and a very diverse group of individuals that were on that committee. It's very balanced. It's very solid. It focuses on the needs of pedestrian pathways and connectivity, safe walkways, safe cycling. It also focuses on improving congestion areas, looking at intersections that need to be improved. Where is it that we need to possibly, like on Reed Market, there's a great project in there about the overpass going over the railway. And what's neat, though, is that that's a project way down the line, and these projects are staged out where we're going to create behavioral change to allow people to learn and create new routes. So it's really the projects are based and created with everybody in mind. It's inclusive. It's got the equitable. It's an equitable plan, and I feel that as we move forward, people are really going to begin to feel a positive impact with this, and creating safe connectivity to our parks like we are today, to schools, and safer roads. We've got our safety, our neighborhood street safety program, which we look forward to moving forward with as well, and the improvement in transit. Growing city, as I mentioned before, transit needs are going to grow. The disability, those with disabilities will have better access to transit, better route connectivity, and the opportunity of better service on transit, so that they can, get to work and then come home on transit at a time that's going to be conducive and relative to them.
So let's shift gears a little bit. Ben just went through a pretty significant event last week with some ICE activity in the community. What's your assessment of the city and city police's handling of the recent ICE and immigrant detainment situation? Specifically, do you believe it was appropriately handled?
So let's first, one, it was a really unique event for Ben. It was hard to see, and those that I've spoken with, nobody wanted to see what they saw there, especially in the city of Bend. I've talked to residents that have been here for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. First time they've ever experienced anything like that. And when that happens, you begin to think of, you begin to make decisions or interpretations just because emotion carries forward. And so when I looked at that and learned of it, I spent quite a bit of time really understanding what sanctuary state means. And what I think is really important here to understand is that as a sanctuary state, our local law enforcement can't engage or actively be involved in working with federal immigration law activities. Our local law enforcement is here to help protect and to serve and keep our community safe. And in the reading that I've done, the conversations that I had with the Deputy Chief of Police, the email exchange that I had with our new Chief of Police, I feel that that's what was done. They did their best to try and keep what they are here to do, is to keep the community safe, and it didn't escalate in a way that would be comparable to Portland. Now, with that said, I felt that as a counselor, going forward, I would say this would be an opportunity for council and the city to really work on what is our true responsibilities as leaders of the city when situations like this happen. We need to be prepared for when this happens again. So I think in every challenging situation, there's an opportunity to be gained, and that's what I hope that we can, as a city and as a council, begin to prepare for. And we are preparing for that. Last fall, I chaired the Stewardship Committee. We brought forth the decision to listen and bring forth diversity, equity, and inclusion training. And just last Wednesday at council, I, with several other council members, decided to move forward with the recommendation of city coming back to us on how we put a commission together. And if we didn't have that today, that opportunity, that commission, and this happened, we wouldn't be able to put a commission in place for probably another 6 months. So I think there's this opportunity now to really take this situation and learn from it, and now utilize this prospective commission as this could be a model case for us to take a look at.
Mm-hmm. Along those lines, do you feel like the city is doing enough to support diversity, equity, and inclusion? And if not, what else would you do?
Well, we're not doing enough. When I decided to run for council, or to run, but when I decided to put my application in for an appointment, that was one thing that was on my mind, is I was looking at our city and its growth. I had volunteered on a number of things. I brought in the Medal of Honor Character Development Program to the High Desert Middle School and the Bend High School. It was something that Medal of Honor recipient Bob Maxwell wanted to complete and do. So he and I worked together. And by doing that, I saw the incredible diversity that we have of students and the needs and just bilingual needs. And so I think that there was definitely a gap that our city wasn't looking at. And we've, in my opinion, prior to coming on council, there was a lot of reactionary things. And I think, and I know as a counselor and as a leader, our job is to be proactive, thinking ahead. And that's what I came into council to do, is try and close that gap. Try and work in closer with the Latino Community Association. Now we have COBLA and we have McKay. And those are all associations that have sprung up. And I think that's important, because it's a voice that's telling you that, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere, we need to work together. And so we need to determine how best to do that. And I think we're setting the stage and the framework with the DEI Commission in doing that. I also want to say that what's been really interesting is that participating with the mayor and the city manager in doing city COVID updates, we did the same of going out to the neighborhood associations, right? That's kind of like the standard thing. But I felt like we were missing another group. And I said, we need to, matter of fact, the idea wasn't really coming from me, but it came from Catherine, who works at the city office. And I was doing a presentation for the Downtown Bend Business Association, and I saw her and I saw Joanna, and I said, we need to do something. And man, Kathy and Joanna were on it. And so what we ended up doing, to make a short story here, is we took the presentation that we did for the neighborhood associations on the COVID City Crisis Update, and Kathy worked hard on interpreting the presentation, and we utilized Kathy in being our moderator and our interpreter, and we gave the presentation to the Latino Community Association, and it was done live over Facebook, and so those are things that we have to continue to do. And as counselors, we need to keep that top of mind. Every policy we write, any listening session we put together, making sure that we are incorporating the bilingual component to it.
So I just want to take a pause and say, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've decided to be outside to do these interviews, and sometimes we're going to hear things and see things in the community that, around us. So if anyone is hearing that loud noise right now, we're doing our best trying to keep everybody mic'd, but we're out in the community and it's just going to happen. So bear with us as we try to navigate all this stuff. We're hearing some construction over there. So let's keep talking about the police a little bit. Where do you stand on the debate to defund the police, and would you support transferring some city funds from cops to social services?
It's a conversation I'm willing to have, but I think right now we're seeing that if we defund the police, I think it's an interesting question, and it's not just to defund police to defund it. I right now don't feel that it's the right decision to defund police. I think we need to determine how we want our police department to serve the community, and what does that look like. And right now we're asking them to be available for mental health and drug addiction, homeless. Their resources are extremely stretched, and it's taking them away from what their full responsibility and duty is. And I'm grateful for the police department to be flexible and nimble and scale to the needs of the community with respect to mental health and drug addiction and the homeless. So right now, I think we really have to kind of peel back the onion a little bit and really look at their budget and see what options we have. I think maybe a listening session, with the police department, with the community, with the city staff, and see how we best can do that, as well as with our community agency partners that have the skill set in mental health and drug addiction and what their resources are like. Because we don't want to take funding from one and put it to another and all of a sudden move all of individuals to those respective agencies, because if we do that, we might end up tapping out those resources and their funding might become really stretched, but they also might not be able to give the service that they want to give. So there's a lot of questions there that need to be asked. Mm-hmm. And we really need to be, real pragmatic in that.
Thanks. So growth is the story of Bend, brings a lot of issues to the table. What do you think the two top challenges are in regards to growth, and what would you propose to deal with those challenges?
Yeah. Well, the first challenge is the infrastructure, our transportation. So we've discussed already about the transportation bond, and I feel that will help alleviate a lot of the growth pains that we're feeling. And with that said, we all have to be patient, because it's not going to be a flip of the switch and all of a sudden transportation is going to be great. It's going to be a dimmer switch, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But it's going to happen and it's going to progress. I think with growth comes the lack of affordable housing as a challenge. When you have growth, your housing inventory becomes really low. And I remember in economics at University of Oregon, supply and demand. Right now, we have demand and we don't have enough supply. So we really have to manage to that. And that goes into urban growth boundary. And in looking at that, ways of expansion is so important on that, because with the expansion of the urban growth boundary, it allows us to build more homes, create stronger infrastructure, and then also comes with that economic development and resiliency and stability, because we're bringing in jobs, we're bringing in hopefully new businesses and new industry. So we have to look at that. The third challenge that I think encompasses it all is livability. We have to continue to make sure that we have our eyes on the safety of our community and our citizens. That when we are in development and when we are doing infrastructure, that what we're building and what we're laying down in terms of roads and sidewalks and bikes, that it's safe for people, that it's well lit. For example, we're in McKay Park. The reason why we're here is because this is a really important place for me. As counselor, this area had no permitted parking. Now we have 4-hour parking. It gives everybody an opportunity to enjoy this park. It brings safety to the neighboring businesses here and to the neighbors up the street. It minimizes the amount of overnight campers, and it's been a great collaborative effort with the city, the Bend Parks, and the police department. And so those are things that we need to continue to think about in livability and their challenges, because our city is growing so fast. But we have to stop putting Band-Aids and really thinking holistically about the city and our community and the individuals that live here, and making sure that they're involved in all of these decisions.
Mm-hmm. So talking about affordable housing, this is an ongoing issue. Every city council candidate wants to talk about it for good reason. But you mentioned the supply and demand. What concrete actions would you take or support to address housing for low and middle income people?
Well, one, I think it goes back to looking at our SDCs and seeing if those are truly in line, because SDCs add a tremendous amount of cost to the housing. Two, let's look at our population and where the economics are with the individuals and the affordability, and begin to putting housing plans in place to meet those individuals so that they can have a home to live in. Because I think, you know, the home is a foundation of prosperity and economic growth for an individual, and independence, and a sense of hope. And so we want to keep that in mind. I think also when we look at master plans, master developments, that there's a percentage of homes that are affordable homes. So we have a really strong mixed-use community, a strong community. Again, that's bringing that inclusivity together, and so people can experience the city in which they're living in. So, the affordability is going to happen too when we start putting the infrastructure into place.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have roads to places that need to go, and when those roads are built, development's going to happen. And when development happens, we're going to be able to bring in online more affordable homes.
Mm-hmm.
We have wonderful partners too that I think we can work that we're already working better with, like Habitat for Humanity. You know, they're slated to build 20 homes this year. An incredible achievement. And so it's partners like that, you know, the city can't do it alone. We have to work together. Our city is growing, we have to have more collaborative efforts. So Habitat for Humanity is bringing 20 homes online is their goal, and Habitat for Humanity gives those individuals a place to start and gives them hope.
So meanwhile, we have a significant and growing number of homeless folks in our community. One of the ways to address that has been the discussion around a planned camp for homeless folks. What's your take on the city's involvement in planning and executing on a planned camp?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about House Bill 2142. That is something that I wish could have happened quite a while ago, because it would get us further ahead. 2142 eases the land use codes and allows us to look at areas of putting in planned camps. For example, we have the Veterans Camp, the Veterans Home, the Veterans Village, that is going to be potentially coming online. They've been working really, really hard, and they will become a good model of what we do going forward with these. And I think that will give hope to those homeless that are looking for transition. And I think it's important to note, in my conversations at the Family Kitchen, my visits to Juniper Ridge, and connecting and talking with the homeless, I'm very sensitive to the situation that they're in. I mean, there was a gentleman out there that is bilingual in Spanish. There's some great talent. There's former architects and construction workers and all, but they just need a leg up, and they want to transition into the working world, but they just don't have that opportunity to do so. So I think with the House bill that's coming online and being further refined, we'll begin to see that. I also feel that through our agency partners like Home Leadership Coalition, COVO, that we'll see greater unity in working together to try and identify new ways, like the warming shelter. The warming shelter, in my opinion, and as counselor, that we should have been talking about that years ago. That was another reason why I came onto council, because it seems like it's been such a void. And we live in an environment and a climate where the conditions are very harsh. And we need to make sure that we're trying to do our best to help those individuals have a safe place to be. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're looking for. And the place can't be moving all over the place. Mm-hmm.
Getting close to the end here.
That's great. Okay.
Do you believe city council members as well as committee members should be paid a living wage for their service?
Well, let me first say I didn't get into this for the money. I got into this because I love being a public servant. I truly have enjoyed this role. I think, as I mentioned to you earlier, if this could be a full-time position, I would love it. It is a conversation that does need to happen. And I'll say this: I don't know right now if we're in a situation of being having the resources for a full-time position, but there are cities smaller than us at the same population as us that does have full-time counselors. What I would like to see is it kind of gradually move into a full-time role, and I think what would be really ideal so that we can stay in touch with the community is investing in administrative support. And that would allow us to help with scheduling, to help with emails, to help with phone calls, because I'm working really hard, me, myself, and I, to try and respond. And I feel bad when I can't. And then when I hear people, the citizens, the community online on Wednesday night saying that, hey, I sent emails, but I didn't get a response. For me, professionally, that's really difficult. I'm in a business where if I don't respond to a customer, I lose that customer. I'm a public servant where minimal dollars are being paid to me that are taxpayer dollars. I have a responsibility to respond and represent and be available. And right now, it's hard to do that. And so I believed, so to answer your question, it's definitely a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah, I realize it's difficult when it's a self-serving answer in a way to display that you don't necessarily say it for your own edification.
Yeah, but I think what's really interesting is you look at the candidate field right now, and they're not doing it for the money. They're doing it because they believe that there are certain situations in our city that aren't being done. They aren't being completed, they aren't being answered, and they want to come in and make change. And they're not in it for the money. You can't be in this for the money. You're in here to serve. And I think that's what's exciting about the slate of candidates. It gives people an opportunity to really participate in local government and to learn and to engage and get out of your bubble. Because my bubble's been broken. And it has been incredibly gratifying to be in this situation.
So before I give you a chance to just talk about anything you want to talk about and wrap up, share why you think people should vote for you, I want to ask about whether you have one critique of the current city council that you'd like to bring up.
Well, I think the only critique I have, right now, as I'm thinking through it, would be that the council, and I said this before, is that we do our best to get the community to know who we are, to have the community, the citizenry, see ourselves as approachable people, and that we are here to advocate on their behalf. But we only can do that, Nicole, if we are out there talking to them, and not hide. And I won't say hiding, but being behind emails or virtual meetings. Today, this meeting, this time, is so powerful because it not only gives you an opportunity to get to know who I am, but it gives the viewers an opportunity. And I continue to do this. And I think that's one critique I would have, is that going forward, and I hope that I am reelected, because I would love to help mentor, but also learn from the new counselors that come on. What is it that we can do and be better counselors, be better leaders, be more engaged, be more approachable with the community?
Well, now we're at the end. I want to give you a chance. Is there anything that we didn't talk about?
Oh, you did a great job. Wonderful questions. And I think one, I would just like to say just how much this position means to me. in close to 2 years of being on council, it has been incredibly challenging, but rewarding at the same time. I have met so many people that I never would have met before. So many people that have changed my mind on certain things that if I hadn't spoken to them, I probably would have been still down that same lane.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to put together a program, a model program like here in McKay Park with the 4-hour parking, and now carrying that program over to the Old Bend Neighborhood Association. These are pilot programs. These are parking requirement programs to keep our community safe. As a counselor, these are programs that I want to continue to go forward and be able to start working on policy that looks at the entire city and not just at different pockets. Mm-hmm. And that going forward to continue to practice my public servant role and to continue to engage. I published a piece in the Bulletin was published on October 19th. And back then I was talking about listening and learning. And as counselor for the city of Bend, that's what I will continue to do. Mm-hmm. And what I have been doing. I've been very active. And I think as counselors you have to be active. You just can't come to a meeting Wednesday night. And as your counselor, I just won't come to meetings Wednesday night and read a packet beforehand. Before I come into that Wednesday night meeting, I'm spending the 2 weeks interacting and engaging, and I will continue to do that. Mm-hmm. And when policy comes up that impacts the entire city, I'm going to be, and what I've always reached out to both sides to get the right information and to help me make an informed decision that I feel is best for the entire community. Mm-hmm. And that's what I will continue to do as city councilor for Bend, Oregon.
Is that what you want to say in terms of why people should vote for you, or did you have any other thoughts on why specifically people should vote for you?
Yeah, specifically, when you a vote for me is really a vote for the entire community. You're going to have someone that is going to check their political hat at the door and fulfill the role of what a counselor should be, and that is a nonpartisan position. And that's the way I look at things, the way I view policy, and that's what you're going to get from me. You're going to get someone that is in the role of counselor, that's in a nonpartisan position, which is what the counselor role is, and looking at the city as a whole and making decisions that I feel, and based on conversations that I've had with the public, that will keep this community moving forward in a safe way, creating a livable environment, providing good infrastructure, creating good infrastructure, building economic development and resiliency, and working collaboratively. I think now as our city's growing, that as your counselor going forward, I will begin, and as I have here at McKay Park, continue working collaboratively with the other taxing districts. We all have to work together, and we have to look at ways that we can begin to share resources and utilize the brain trust from those other taxing districts to keep our city going forward. And that's what you're going to get from me.
Thanks so much, Chris, for contributing to our democracy and serving your city thus far. And
you're so welcome.
Best of luck.
Yeah, you're so welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to have this interview with you.
Absolutely.